Ujai, and welcome to the Gated Gaze podcast. We're here back this week with another episode. We are grateful for you tuning in, and we hope you continue to tune in. Before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the forces in the non-material, the ancestors, all of our ancestors, all of your ancestors, all the ancestors that are standing behind this work, all of the powers of nature. Also, to Nemnabala Musa Mora Dinabig, the founder of the Earth Center, for him to open up the doors for all of us to be able to have a doorway back into the traditions and to all of this vast network of knowledge and wonderful temples that we're able to go visit and be a part of, and able to bring you the Kebtah temples as a representation of and an extension of. And without further ado, we'd like to just jump into today's episode. We are lucky we have a very special guest here today. I know he cleared out a lot of things from his schedule to be able to be here with us today. And I'll just say my name is Tutipsa Mahekwa Namir. I am your host with my co-host.
My name is Kajizriman Kebtah, and we're here today with...
My name is Nekhitem Kamenthu. Ujai.
And Nekhitem is not only the executive director of the Earth Center, or Kebtah, as some of you know it by interchangeably. He is one of the oldest standing initiates in the work. So we're very lucky to have him here today. And just a word from our sponsor, Sauce, real quick, before we jump into the nitty-gritty of today's topic, because today we're going to be talking about Christianity. And if you guys saw the look on Kajizriman's face when we got ready to do Christianity and how excited he got, because there's a lot of us that have come from the Christian pipeline, for lack of a better term, where like we all have a story where, you know, someone did something in the name of Christianity to screw you over to some degree, right? So, or, you know, people do things in the name of God, very ungodly things in the name of God. So today we're going to go in. So if you're sensitive and, you know, you're, you know, for the faint of heart, then I suggest you just turn it off now if you're going to get offended based on what we're going to be talking about in terms of Christianity and also abortion. So if you're going to get, you know, upset about what we're going to talk about in terms of abortion, then, you know, it's best if you just turn it off now. And now a word from our sponsor, Sauce.
Yeah, greetings everybody again. My name is Nekhitem Kamenthu. So besides the other roles that Tutipsa had mentioned, I'm also the creator and head chef for Sauce Hot Sauce. There's a long story behind Sauce Hot Sauce. Many years ago, about 20 years ago, I got into cooking hot sauce because I tasted wonderful hot sauce and wanted to recreate it. My biggest influence, I used to have a housemate when I lived in California about 22 years ago, and he was from Trinidad and Tobago. And his mom used to send him care packages of bird pepper hot sauce.
Nice.
And kuchila, which is also another Trini spice, really good. Anyway, it was the best thing I ever tasted. You know, I just knew Tabasco and stuff before then. And then so...
Which is a terrible hot sauce.
Yeah, I mean...
Screw you, Tabasco.
You know.
Sauce, hot sauce.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, we're saying it. Well, regardless, we can't take it back.
So, yeah, when I moved back east, you know, around 2004, I didn't have any decent hot sauces. So I started an adventure of cooking my own hot sauce, you know, trying to find the best ingredients and making it to reproduce what I had from that bird pepper hot sauce. So I'd been doing that a couple of years, and around 2007, I was on a trip in Burkina Faso, and on that trip, I cooked the hot sauce.
Nice.
And Nebnabala Musa Mora Denibig was there, Naba Irita was there.
Nice.
Everybody was there, and they really liked it. And then shortly after that, we were trying to think of ideas of how to fundraise for the organization.
Yep, because we're a grassroots organization.
Yeah, grassroots. And everybody was like, what about the hot sauce? So that's when I began starting the kind of seminal process to make sauce hot sauce. And so anyway, fast forward to now, here's our flavors. We have Cirquet's Fire, which is made with scorpion peppers. It's very hot.
It's very hot,
delicious
but good.
sauce with a kind of little mustardy edge. It's excellent. This one is Salsa Verde. Not hot, but as most people know, if you know Salsa Verde, it's not really hot, but incredibly flavorful. We have garlic, cilantro, all kind of wonderful flavors. Like if heat's too much for you, but you want a really good condiment, that's the sauce for you. Then we have Island Crown, which is more a Caribbean-style hot sauce where it's just a pure, beautifully grown hot pepper. It's a Jamaican six-pot.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, Jamaican six-pot.
Yeah, I like Island Crown.
And then you know,
It's my favorite too.
yeah, then it's just a little vinegar, a little salt, a little bit of something, and then it is what it is, and it's very hot as well. So yeah, these are our sauces. We're very happy to have them on the show. Our website is up. It's under construction. It'll be done next month. And our website is SAAS, SAAS, hot sauce. So saashotsauce.com. And then very shortly, you'll be able to go on there and buy bottles for yourself. We'll ship them right to you. And it benefits a good cause because 30% of the profit from the sauce goes to aid displaced families in Burkina Faso who are going through the hardships due to the displacement in Burkina Faso.
So for those that don't know, what we're talking about in terms of displaced families, we're really talking about colonialism, or just an extension of colonialism in terms of the way that these so-called colonial superpowers like the United States, France, the UK, all these, you know, European superpowers that carry out proxy wars for natural resources, even the Arab superpowers, the Arab countries and things like that. So there's a lot of power grabs for land, and, you know, people, as my father always said, you know, in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you're from. So there's a lot of people trying to figure out where they're from, and they're looking on the continent of Merita, or for those that don't know, the term we use to refer to Merita is really Africa. So it's going to a good cause. So, you know, support sauce if you can, and it's really good, and, you know, it's not going to hurt you on the way out. For some hot sauces do, like Tabasco. Like, screw those kind of hot sauces. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of our topic today, we're going to jump right into rapid fire. So our producer's going to give us some of the headlines, and we're going to jump right in with some Dogon takes.
So American consumers are growing worried about U.S. debt default right now. So there's a rising concern that there's going to be a recession coming soon.
Aren't we in a recession though?
I thought the recession thing is like every 4 years. No, it's almost like a clear cycle. Is it 4 or 8 years? Because it seems like it happens. Like there's always like a pandemic where they have like some kind of disease that breaks out.
Or something, some type of big,
something
like
big.
9/11 or a pandemic, something, some type of war.
Right.
They do something to mess with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you notice, because I'm in finance now, and it's something I've been looking into for a while.
You said
honestly.
Now,
yeah.
like,
because I've been looking into it, but now I'm actually.
Are you a stockbroker? Like, are
something
you
like that?
Are
Something
you a
like
hedge fund manager?
Something like that.
We're kicking this guy out. Get out, like you and your hedge fund people.
But no, for real, like, right? When you look at it, the market has like a period where it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. But
not to interrupt
it's
you,
never without fail.
Have you seen that? There was a graphic I saw that there was a finance guy from the 1800s that talked about the stock market and when it would go up, when it would go down, when it would go up, when it would reach like a middle area. For those of you that are on social media, you probably know what I'm talking about. You've seen it, hopefully. I don't know. And it's so accurate.
Exactly.
And it's from the 1800s.
Because it never stops. It's like clockwork. It's always stable in a way. So I think you can always kind of predict when there's going to be like recessions, when there's going to be like some kind of major pandemic or some kind of thing, because it goes on a clockwork cycle always. But, so that's what I'm saying. It's not really a surprise to me, but I think the issue with this really is the concept of preparation.
Mm.
Because most people who like are not really, I guess, privy to this or don't pay attention, they don't prepare enough.
We're getting cut off.
Oklahoma governor wages war on PBS. Guys, the rapid fire is 90
rapid
seconds.
fire was 90
just so you
seconds.
know, I will be keeping time.
Our producer wasn't here last week, and we had one of the associate producers. So our producer is
It was
stickler
a
for
little,
time.
it was a little loose.
Yeah.
Oklahoma governor wages war on PBS station after claiming it is indoctrinating children with LGBTQ content. So there's like a lot of PBS content, especially children's content, that is now like inserting like woke type of.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody know that Bert and Ernie were gay? Like everybody knows that Bert and Ernie were homosexuals.
SpongeBob.
Well, people didn't think that because it
SpongeBob's
wasn't
not
in their
on
mind.
PBS though.
Yeah, people didn't think that because it wasn't really a thought. It wasn't blatantly
Bro,
in your
Bert
face.
and Ernie are clearly homosexuals.
I mean, now you can see
Does
that.
anyone beg to differ
No, I
that
don't
Bert
think
and
so.
Ernie aren't homosexuals?
But as a kid, you're not gonna think that. Now they're telling you that that's what it is. That's the difference.
Bro, but like they normalize so many things. Like Oscar the Grouch is a crackhead, basically. He's a bum. He's like a crackhead, like a derelict. Like there's so many things that Sesame Street, like the grumpy old men. Shout out to our grumpy old men, our resident grumpy old men, Hot Nima and Irisahu. That function like those two Muppet characters. Shout out to them. But
shout out.
But like tell us something we don't know, Mr. Governor of where's he from? Kansas or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yeah. Tell us something we don't know, bro. Are we good? Oh, 90 seconds. All right, we're cut off.
15 seconds.
15
Do you have
seconds. Does
anything else to
anybody
say?
does anybody have anything to say about Sesame Street?
I gotta watch a couple of more reruns. Check that out again.
Sesame Street? I haven't watched Sesame Street in a very long time. So,
So Peloton is
Big
recalling 2 million bikes right now. There's a safety hazard caused by the adjustable seats. And a lot of people are suing Peloton for the adjustable seats.
That's some rich white people shit, man. Like Peloton. Like who has a Peloton? Do you know anybody do you guys even know what a Peloton is?
I don't know what that is. I don't
Do you
know
know
what
what
you're
a
talking about.
Peloton is?
What is it? A bike?
It's a bike.
It's a bike.
It's a exercise bike, but it's like a high end exercise bike.
You can tell how much I exercise.
Yeah, me too. Right. And one time I was at. This is gonna sound terrible, but one time I was at a yoga class, right? And I had a pair of shorts on, and I didn't know they belonged to like the Peloton brand.
The
And there was
shorts?
the shorts, because they were a pair of Nike shorts, and I just bought them because they were on sale, right? And then the white lady next to me at yoga was like, "I do Peloton," because the shorts had the Peloton brand on them, and I was like, "What is this lady talking about?" That was an inner monologue in my head, and then I was kind of like, and then I realized later on that I had the Peloton logo on, and the reason why the shorts were on sale is because they were Peloton brand, and nobody was buying them.
Because nobody knows what that is.
Exactly. Well, no one aside from the people that buy Pelotons know what that is, because during the last recession, Pelotons were one of the things that were bought in excess because of during the pandemic. Also, not necessarily the recession, because of the fact that everybody was stuck at home. So then they bought Peloton bikes and were biking.
Well, that's good to know. But when you say they're recalling them,
Useless fact.
is it because the?
It's like they're broken.
Is the 90 seconds over?
Pause.
Yeah, isn't it?
I just want to know if like the seat was like falling off and like people were getting juked in the butthole by the thing or something. Is
God.
that what's going on?
That was my thought.
And thank you. No, I'm not
All
crazy. man.
the people that are at home. Like, who do you know that has a Peloton? No one that you know. I ask you to find 5 people in your contact list that have a Peloton.
All right, so tens of thousands at U.S. border as Title 42 migrant policy ends. Policy known as Title 42 allowed the U.S. to swiftly deport people without an asylum hearing, using the coronavirus pandemic as justification.
I feel like they've been doing that for forever, and then they just kind of made it seem like they had an excuse with the coronavirus to do that. But I mean, it just, America goes, destabilizes in region because they want the resources. They do something, and then they come in, and then they're like, where are all these refugees coming from? And then they're the ones creating the problem.
I mean, look, the way I see it, you can't keep the Mexicans and the people coming from South America and Central America out. It's actually their land.
Goddamn Mexicans.
It's actually their land. Like, you can't keep them out. Like, they know it. They know the land. That's why they can always find a way to go around all those borders and stuff, because they actually are from here. You can't keep them out. So, I mean, like, what are we doing? I don't know.
Do you have a more intellectual take on that one?
There's no intellectual about it. It's just, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, being Mexican is a nationality, but there's a lot of different ethnic groups there, and one of the major one is what we would call Native Americans, like people actually from the land. So it's like kicking them out. It doesn't make sense, but that's the world we live in. There's ebbs and flows. It's like the financial question. You got to create ebbs and flows to get people to buy into something that's so crazy.
Exactly.
It's all nuts. But you got to, bring people up, you bring people down, make them seem like there's something to engage in, that it's legit, but it's all bullshit.
You can't keep those Mexicans out. 90 seconds. All right, we're cut off from the Mexican topic. No, it wasn't Mexican. It was migrants.
Yeah, it's wider, right? I think.
Let's be real. They're really talking.
He took it to the Mexicans.
No. They're really talking about Mexicans. What other migrants are they really talking about?
Bro, how do you know? There could be migrants from Venezuela. There could be migrants from Chile.
All right, so let me rephrase. The people from South and Central America. Which
and Latin
majority,
America.
Latin America, whatever. Yeah. Which majority are Mexicans?
So, pets must not replace children in Italy, warns the Pope.
I'm not even gonna say anything, because we have a Sicilian here with us, so he can say something.
That's me. I'm Sicilian.
Like he can talk on. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's a sad time where we live, that our faith in our fellow human beings has become so low that it's been replaced by the confidence a dog has in whoever it lives with, because it's a pack animal. The dogs depend on, being in a pack. So, you feed the dog. Same with cats. You feed the cat, it's going to love you, and it's going to show an unconditional connection because it's an animal. But now we become so lazy with our social structure and our morals and our relationship with each other, that now animals are more dependable than people, and people prefer to have relationships with animals. It's just the times we live in. It's not that we've always kept dogs and cats as human beings, but now it's a sad state of affairs.
A lady had left millions of dollars from her estate to her dog. Yeah. Her dog.
Oh yeah,
that's the world we're living in.
And then she had I saw that. Oh, is that time?
Woman survives 5 days in the wild on wine in the Australian bush. An Australian woman was rescued after being spotted by a police helicopter after 5 days in the wilderness.
The Australian bush?
Yeah.
I thought they fully colonized Australia. Like, what bush are they talking about in Australia?
No, it is bushes.
In terms of the colonial people?
No, it is wilderness.
It was just wine.
It was just wine.
Yeah, wine will keep you warm, right?
Yeah,
hang out, drink some wine.
It'll keep you full too. It'll fill you up until you pass out.
I want to know the backstory though. Like, how did she get out there with just
true.
wine?
Good question.
What's going on?
And where'd she get all the wine from?
No one knows.
To be continued.
Was she fat? This lady?
She seemed like a regular lady.
She seemed like a regular lady.
Regular way.
Because fat people are pretty resourceful. Like, you never. Where are we on the 90 seconds?
The Turkey election. The Kremlin rejects accusations of interference. So evidently, Turkey is going through an election right now, and there's some accusations that the Kremlin or Russia has some ties or affairs within the politics in Turkey, and the Kremlin is saying
No.
we're not involved.
Yeah, but like the take I have is pretty ridiculous. Does anyone have another take?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to hear what you guys
so like like in those movies in the 90s, like when you would see like those movies where like the Eastern Europeans were the bad people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then now it's like the Arabs and the Muslims are the bad people, like the Hollywood uses. I just remember like thinking like, man,
Mamelukes.
you said Marmalukes? This guy with his
Mama Luke's.
yeah, this guy with
Mama
his,
Luke's.
yeah, this guy with his Snapple facts. I just remember thinking like, man, the powers that be like really want you to kind of like hate those people, and like I just don't know if there's really is there really a difference between the Russians and the Turks?
That's a good question, because wasn't the main capital of Russia like a Christian capital, Constantinople, and like their headquarters was in Istanbul or something like that, Turkey?
I mean, Ottoman
Historically?
Empire. Are we talking about like
Yeah.
the same thing? Were the
Yeah,
Russians a part of the Ottoman Empire? Does anybody know?
I believe they were.
I don't know the history too well.
Yeah.
But I know Russia is a giant place. So there's like
Russia's huge.
many different ethnic groups,
Yeah.
many people with different backgrounds there. But if you focus around Moscow, it's mostly like Eastern European Slavic tribes, like the Rus and
The
stuff
Rus.
like that. From
Shout out
Russia.
to Turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know
And
much
Russia.
about Turkish politics.
Time.
But I know
Sorry,
Turkey.
we
I
don't
know.
provide anything.
Children's show Transformers.
I know.
Actually, we could get back into that one later.
No, yeah,
in
we'll
the
come
real
back to
topic.
it, yeah.
No,
Okay.
because Turkey is right next to Greece,
Overruled.
and it's right next to Hungary. And like Turkey
Yeah.
and Greece are two of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And then they make me hungry.
Greece, Turkey,
Yeah.
makes me hungry.
Children's show Transformers
Don't
is on the
cancel
chopping
us.
block as new episode depicts robots using inclusive pronouns.
Wait,
What?
say that one more time.
Children's show Transformers is on the chopping block as new episodes depict robots using inclusive pronouns.
You talking about Autobots and Decepticons?
Like Optimus Prime.
So evidently there was an episode
pretty
where
good
one of the
Transformer.
Transformers used the incorrect pronoun of another robot, and then they were corrected and said, "No, I'm a they them."
on the show?
On the show, on the Transformer show,
I can't do this.
and now parents are.
It's a car, right?
Can
It's a car that
turns
transforms into a robot,
yeah.
and it was misgendered.
Yeah.
Do cars have sex? Do cars reproduce?
well, in my childhood defense, I always knew that there were male and female Transformers.
But what? I don't know of any female Transformers.
There's one.
What's
I
her
used to
name?
watch the cartoons. I don't
What's her
remember. She
name?
wasn't that important. I don't remember, but there was one.
Cancel us.
Um,
Because that's
I just want to say
ridiculous.
one thing. Am I allowed to say the Jamaican B word? Can that get us flagged? Cause
What? Because the thing is
That-
like
that's a
things
B
we-
word
things we
moment.
say on YouTube can get us in trouble.
That's why I asked. That's
But
a
what's
B
the
word
Jamaican
moment.
B word? B word.
Come on, bro. Come on. That's a big B word moment.
Bumbleclot?
Oh my, he said it.
Nah, we can't get canceled for saying bumbleclot.
Oh great, Bumbleclot. That's a big
Okay,
Bumbleclot
that's
moment.
ridiculous. The first and foremost, Transformers aren't real, so you can't misgender them because they don't have genders. And
Time.
you need
Russia
help
tried to destroy U.S.
if
made
you
Patriot
think you
system
can
in Ukraine.
misgender a Transformer.
Russia tried to destroy a U.S. made Patriot system in Ukraine, officials say. Russia tries to destroy the Patriot air defense system in Ukraine last week with a hypersonic missile. So the allegations that the U.S. has been in Ukraine are obviously true.
America is in Ukraine. If you don't think that the Ukraine war is just like the Western powers fighting Russia, you're an idiot.
I want to know who be putting up this news. Like, where do they get
Where's
the
that
news
from? Yeah, where's that? Where's
It's
that?
from CNN.
CNN. Oh God, Don
It's
Lemon's
questionable.
crew.
Questionable. Very questionable.
Huh?
I'm saying the news is very questionable, depending on where it's coming from. That's
It's
why I
not
asked.
questionable. It's all questionable. The media is questionable because it's just a mouthpiece for the system.
Mhm. But yeah, I don't really have much to say to that one. I mean, you already said it. You know, it is what it is. It's just America using Ukraine as another way to get close to Russia, which Russia warned them about.
I'm not
which,
mad at
you know,
Russia.
Whatever.
I'm not mad at Russia. Hey, do what you need to do to protect yourself from the Western powers, because it's nothing but degeneracy over here, okay? Freedom and liberties. It's run away. Okay, Russia, protect yourself.
Time. A massive new U.S. embassy in a tiny Middle East nation is raising eyebrows. So there's a new U.S. embassy
Where?
in Beirut in Lebanon that's raising a lot of eyebrows because it's a huge embassy.
I thought Lebanon was war-torn right now, right?
Yeah.
I wonder who tore it.
America?
80% of Lebanon is under the poverty line.
Wow. I mean, hey, you know, when you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. So, to the Arab leaders of the world, you did it to yourself.
Mamelukes?
Mamelukes. I know about the history of Mamelukes. You want me to tell you real quick?
Yeah.
He
Go
told
ahead,
us
go ahead.
last week. That's why he's so excited.
He got
Yeah.
more to share.
No, because we use it as an insult to
Uh-huh.
meet an idiot in
Yeah.
Sicily. He's a
Yeah.
Mameluke.
Oh.
Yeah, we say that, right? So the Mameluke, originally there were these Slavic slaves. That's where the original word comes from, right? And they-
Tiasta. I didn't I tell you? I told you Tiasta.
and so,
Lolita.
right, and they were absorbed by the Islam, early Islam, and they took them, and they were some of their most brutal
This
fighters.
guy has the biggest intellectual boner right now because he's like, yes, I said this last week.
No, I just like
So-
that word.
keep
so they
I
were
just
a
really
force.
like that
Keep
word.
going, keep going.
They were a force called the Mamelukes, and then they ended up in Sicily, northern Africa, and Sicily, and somehow. So that's where the expression came from.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of people don't know that; they just say it.
yeah. But apparently, he knows that, and he knows that, and I didn't know that. I can't speak for anybody else on the line. I can't speak for anybody else in the room. But nonetheless, so
You might be a Mameluke.
I'm a
I said you might be.
He was calling everybody Marmalukes last week, and I was like, just because you call someone a Marmaluke doesn't make them a Marmaluke.
Marmaduke.
Yeah, yeah, like right, Marmaduke.
So before we jump into our main topic, I just want to let you guys know about the events that are coming out of the Dogon temples right now, right? So we have a very big event that's kicking off as of May 18th, okay? And it's called The Dogon Are Walking. What's the website? DogonWisdom.com? DogonWisdom.com. Please check it out. Dogon, DogonWisdom.com. Check it out, and it will have everything that I'm about to say listed out. So then because I'm going to talk fast, so, you can check it out. We are kicking off the event, the tour, at Third Eye Kitchen in Oakland, California. Shout out to the Bay, May 18th. Then Soft Medicine in Sebastopol, California, May 19th. Cabo Ranch, May 20th. May 21st, the Classy Hippie in Sacramento. May 23rd at the Almighty Gallery in LA. May 24th, Motherland Drums in LA. May 27th, Black Market Flea, LA. May 26th through the 30th at the Nest Hollywood Workshop. The Nest Hollywood, that's in Hollywood, obviously, that's LA. And then June 2nd through the 3rd, the event is to be announced, but we have an event that those 2 days. And then June 4th, Peace Yoga Gallery, Los Angeles. And then June 17th through June 19th, Emerald Valley, Netherland, Colorado. So we're going to be coming a bit east from California. And then June 24th, we are in Austin at the Ceremony Circle. So please check us out. And let me give the producer the mic real quick.
So we just have two more topics from the audience that are pretty good. So Egyptologist claims he suffered mystery illness after opening ancient Egyptian tomb. An Egyptologist has claimed he suffered a mystery illness that left him hallucinating and coughing up blood after opening an ancient Egyptian tomb.
Yeah, it's your fault. Don't go opening tombs.
Yeah, you shouldn't rob graves. I mean, it's just a basic principle.
Go F yourself. Like, what do you want us to say? Yeah, don't go rob tombs and go to the Dogon walking tour. Okay, do something beneficial with your time. All right, buy some hot sauce. Go to the Dogon walking tour. Do something useful.
Yeah,
Contribute.
Don't be a Mameluke.
Yeah, don't be a Marmaluke. You Marmaluke.
Toxic and ineffective. Experts warn against herbal abortion remedies on TikTok. Evidently, there's some
Herbal
videos.
abortions?
Yeah, there's some videos going around of some herbal abortion remedies that on TikTok right now. They're gaining a lot of popularity.
Really?
I mean, look. So what? They're like having, they're just jizzing in women, and then being like, go get one of the TikTok herbal abortions. That's what they're doing.
To put it in words, yeah. Different
Yeah,
words.
you know, we're simplifying it for the people out there.
So a more holistic way to kill a child.
I mean, look, I
have to say, like, you know, in my younger years, I'd be like, you need to go get one of them TikTok remedies. But like now, as I've grown and, you know, evolved in my life and, you know, got matured in my life, I would say that, like, you know, take the time to think before you make, you know, drastic decisions like, you know, killing children, which takes us into our topic today, which is Christianity and abortion. Christianity, we're not going to touch on as much. We're really going to tackle abortion because it just felt like the natural progression. You know, we were talking about,
Remedies to kill.
No.
Children.
What we
Holistic
talked
way.
about in the second week and the third week.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
we don't say it like that because then it makes people feel unwelcome. But like, you know, we were talking about things like stuff. And here we are. And we're going to talk about, you know, abortion. So I know this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people, right? Because there's a video that I saw the other day that somebody sent, and they were talking about, you know, when do you think like the baby becomes a life? And they were saying like when the baby leaves the mother's womb, right? So like when the mom pushes the baby out of the birthing canal. And then, so they said, what about if there was a woman that was pregnant and was smoking meth? And then the guy was like, well, then I would say, like, you know, you got to stop her from smoking meth. And then they're like, well, but then what about, like, you know, the whole thing you just said about, like, it being a woman's choice, right? So we find ourselves at a very interesting junction within humanity because everything is about like a woman's choice, right? And I'm not a woman. I don't have a vagina. He doesn't have a vagina. He doesn't have a vagina. So this is going to trigger you because there's no vaginas present, right? But no problem because we're going to talk about this regardless. There's some vaginas present, but they're not on camera. And we really want to talk about he doesn't have a vagina. Don't wave at him. So we're going to talk about this regardless because, you know, there's a lot of, and we're going in, there's a lot of, you know, controversy about like, you know, pro-choice, you know, like anti-abortion, all of these things. And let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
I kind of want to go back to, you said the guy said that the baby doesn't have life until it's like basically here.
Yeah, until
Like-
it comes out of the vagina.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't
Or
really
the
know.
stomach if you're doing a C-section.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't really know how somebody could like have that kind of train of thought, because if you know, or if you've been around pregnant women, I mean, there's 2 pregnant women right here. I mean, I'm sure they can tell you that the baby is kicking them every night. The baby's kicking them in the ribs. The baby's moving. You can even feel the baby moving. Like, I could put my ears.
Have you been pregnant before?
I haven't been pregnant, but
You're speaking like a pregnant woman. Okay, huh?
have you spoken to a pregnant woman? They're gonna tell.
Yes,
This is
of
what I'm saying.
course.
This is
Yeah,
the things
yeah.
they're gonna tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just bringing up the fact that they're
Just
telling
giving
you
you
that
shit, it's
there's
okay.
there's like movement.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, there's things going on. The baby is doing things.
Nekhitem's like, why did I come on this show?
But
It
if I can even put my ear to like a pregnant woman's stomach
Mhm.
and I can hear the heartbeat, you're gonna tell me that the child is not
when,
alive?
though?
When?
Yeah, when? When does
That's
it
a
start?
very interesting question.
When does the heartbeat start? Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm 16, 14, 13 on TikTok, and then they're like, yeah, drink a gallon of Clorox and then you can abort a baby. Like, I'm going to be, if I'm 13, 14, and I'm growing up in this day and age, I'm having sex with anything that moves. And then I'm going to be like, yeah, you need to check out that TikTok from
At
Tyrone and tell me, you know, drink the Clorox and
At 13,
make that happen,
At
Captain.
13 years old.
yeah. I lost my
I mean, no, it's cool. You can say it. You can say it. You can say it.
I lost my virginity at 13, but okay, huh?
I was a little younger than you.
a little younger.
Yeah, a little
That's
But it's scary. But here's what I'm gonna say.
We have sexual assault resources available for you.
But if you don't want to get someone pregnant, just wear a condom. It still feels good.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, like
The voice of reason.
there's so much things that you can do before
Mm-hmm.
it even gets to that point. And I think that's like one of the things that we have to really talk about in this day and age. To me, from my perspective, it seems like there's a lack of self-accountability for a lot of people. I mean, if you make decisions, you take actions, that's a certain path you go
you
down.
got to stand by it.
Yeah, you gotta just, you make the bed you lie in, right? So I don't see how it's fair for someone to think, hey, I did this thing. Now the consequences of me doing this thing and doing it without protecting myself has now given me this life that's growing, and now I'm going to take that life and then remove it because I think it's inconvenient. But it wasn't inconvenient for you when you were doing the act. That thought didn't come to your mind when you were involved in the act. So I think it's a lack of self-accountability. And, one of the main arguments I hear with this topic is, what if the person was raped? Let's be for real. How many abortions are due to rape?
You mean pregnancies?
Yeah, pregnancies. How many pregnancies
And
are due to
therefore
rape?
abortions.
And therefore abortions. Not many.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's what you're here for.
a lot of these perspectives are coming from science and modern culture, or from belief, either belief or just material science, like trying to figure this thing out. But for people like us, coming from the perspective that we come from back home, what do we say
Yeah.
we're represented? Traditional
We're
African knowledge,
The African indigenous perspective.
Like, we know about the transit of the human spirit. If there's one thing we know about that.
Get ready.
The cycle of reincarnation, what it takes. If you know what it takes all for a human spirit to even get to the point where it starts to manifest in the womb of a woman, you would think differently about it. But people don't know about that. So it becomes semantics, it becomes politics. Hey, when does it start? Is it after so many weeks, after
It's
so many
short-sighted.
months? What about these certain situations and stuff like that? But if you know really what it takes for a human spirit to go through the cycle of reincarnation and begin to manifest, for it to even make a choice to come, that's a game changer.
Pause.
Then you know it's life. That's what it is. Because so when you're terminating, no matter, even if it's at the genesis, even if you're using birth control, it still terminates the transit of that human spirit coming through. So in essence, you're killing the opportunity for that spirit to manifest itself, and it will get trapped. So it's killing and imprisoning a human spirit. We have to deal with it all the time. We have to help people resolve this issue. It's a big deal. Now,
It's big. It's huge.
it's a big deal. Now, if you want to talk about rape, sure, rape is not good. We try, in our traditional cultures, we have civilizational morals which we're in our
Stop you from being a rapist.
yeah, we avoid something like that because it's an absolute violation.
There are no rapists.
Right. Right.
There aren't even any jails.
Right, but if the life comes for whatever reason, despite all of that circumstances, there's an ancestor that ends up coming in that situation.
Reincarnation is real.
Yeah, you then have a situation where someone is violated, but then is a solution to the situation where a person is violated to then murder a life coming in.
Right. He's like weighing.
But hold on. Because like to the uninitiated, they're gonna be like, so abortion is murder, right?
No, what I'm saying is abortion is worse than rape. So why would you add two evils together?
Okay, but
Because one is just being violated,
okay, but hold on.
but one is a death of a spirit.
So tell us why the abortion would be worse than rape, because there's gonna be people out there like there's a white
sounds
woman.
crazy,
There's
right?
a white woman in Seattle that just heard you say that, and she's like, "God damn it, Nekhitem." So tell us,
No,
how is it?
The fact is this: if something very unfortunate like rape occurs and there's
Yeah.
a child that comes, at least the child will have a chance to grow up and live life. That spirit that ended up coming, even through whatever that circumstance was, it will have a chance to be someone that even serves the community. That's how we would approach it in our society.
From the indigenous
perspective. It wouldn't be like a negative thing. You just make lemonade out of lemons,
Yeah.
right? But
It's just like I stepped in a pile of shit. I might as well use it for manure.
right, but the only reason I can speak from a position where you know that it's killing is because we have to deal with that problem. It's as normal as like the sky is blue and water is wet. When you do that kind of thing, it creates something that is a problem for the mother, and then it can be a problem for their descendants, and it just chases them and curses them. And then people don't know why their life is falling apart. They don't know why they have all these problems.
Well, so can you walk us through the technical process of like how that would affect? Because like to just kind of just to give people a context, it's like what would be the problem with killing something that hasn't been born?
Well, they've already come to this dimension. You know, they're on their way to this dimension. So it's a human spirit, and you're killing it.
Well, you're stopping it from manifesting physically fully, right?
Well, getting to the point of birth.
You nullify the process, right?
Yeah, it's still a problem. It's still killing. So my point is just this: even from the first moment that the sperm and the egg meet, and it agrees, and then the being becomes formed.
Y'all aren't ready for this. Y'all aren't ready. Go.
That's what it is. So even birth control is a problem. People will use birth control thinking that they're not even getting to that point. But what's happening is the manifestation happens and then it dies. So a lot of people I never had abortions, but they have the spiritual problems that come from using contraceptives all the time and then getting the pregnancies that come and then die. So even they're thinking they're being responsible, but they end up dealing with all of the weight and the problem.
So what would you say is the reasoning for that kind of thought process? Because I know we can speak on these things, right? Because we're privy to the knowledge of that.
Yeah.
But for most people in this society, they have no clue or no idea of what we're probably even talking about. And for me, I really want to ask you, what would you consider to be the main reason why that is? Why is it that people can't see why this would be wrong? Why is it that their eyes seem to be blindfolded, as if somebody just put a whole garbage bag over their heads and tied it?
It's simple. It's because even what we've had to, this goes to our next topic, the church. Even what we've had to hold to call spirituality is just belief. It's population management. It's ways to manage populations and control people to get them to believe. But it doesn't matter what you believe. Life happens. There's an actual technical reality in existence. And that doesn't have anything to do with what you believe. It's the most self-centered thing to think that what you believe actually alters the world.
But what if I believe what if I think hard enough when I'm at the gas station, I can manifest the gas station attendant? Because in New Jersey, we don't pump our own gas, right? You have to have the guy pump the gas. And I believe that the gas station attendant is going to give me gas for free.
Well, we all believe. You know, it's like a crapshoot. It's like you throw the dice. Sometimes the belief lines up. Sometimes it's not. You know, if something good happens that I believe it was going to happen, then I say it's the devil or the God. And then if it's bad, it's the devil, right? Like that. Something like this.
So then basically what I took from that is like that basically your beliefs are BS. And they don't change reality.
And it's not a complete thought, because what you said was, why do people end up thinking like this?
Yeah.
So anything having to do with the non-material or having to do with the spiritual dimension or even the human spirit is kind of been reduced to a very abstract notion that people who use their brain and think can very easily knock down. So when people in the modern world talk about spirit and this, it's just like, they're religious fanatics. But that's because...
Well, they're like New Age religious fanatics.
Well, it could be I mean, it could be anything. But the point is this, is that those religions and those beliefs took away the original knowledge of the technical aspects of the transit of the spirit. And now we're just left with belief. And then a person who thinks will buy into science, because it's like, I can see it with my eyes, I can hear it with my ears, I can smell it, I can taste it. I'll trust that what's real rather than what some charlatan is talking to me about. So it's totally understandable why people would be adverse to even anything talking about the human spirit or the human soul or anything like that, because all we have to work with is bullshit.
So what would you say, like, let's say, and I'm not, but let's say I'm Sally Mae in Kansas, and I get pregnant by,
Darrell.
Darrell. I get pregnant by Darrell, and then I'm there, and I don't want to admit to, Joe and Sally, that my mom and my dad, that I got pregnant by somebody, and then I'm like, this and that, and blah, 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 and whatever. And then I'm like, it's not a problem. It's not a problem for me to go get an abortion. It's not an issue. What would you say to Sally Mae or such and such in terms of this,
Well, people have been aborting pregnancies for millennia. They would drink herbal concoctions. The things that we talked about before, people did that. There's some herbs they would drink, do, and then it would be done. Nobody locked them up. There was nobody policing them. There was no clinics or anything like that. So if someone, makes the choice to go do it, it's on them. I don't, what am I going to do? I mean, like, vie for people getting locked up for having a clinic or getting abortions? That's your problem. You're going to have to deal with that. And I only say that because I know what happens to people when they do it. You don't have to lock somebody up. Whatever happens to them due to that is punishment enough.
But to the people that don't, so what do you mean by punishment, right? Because it's like, to the uninitiated, you're like, oh, well, like, I'm free.
Right.
Like, let's say I'm a woman, right? And I'm not a woman, but let's say, like, hypothetically, I'm speaking for a woman that's in her 50s, and she's like, I chose my career, and I don't care that I wasn't able to have children. And I did countless abortions. And, like, I have my career to keep me warm at night, not a stupid man. Like, what about that lady?
I wouldn't have anything to say to her if she's content and doesn't come to me with a problem about it.
But then she's like, why isn't my life moving forward? Like, I feel like something's missing.
Well, if she took the pathway to actually talk to spiritual experts and look for a solution to it, then it might come up. And then there would be things that could be done, to try to, set the human spirits free that were that are cursing her in her
people
line.
are not really going to do that because, like you said, we live in a society where that kind of like thought process of the realities of the unseen is just not there anymore.
Right.
And it's kind of concerning, because if we lose that, the idea of the unseen, if we're already losing that, like, what do we really have, right? So it almost becomes like people start to think they themselves are like this individual thing that's like more important than the reality. Because that's the only reason why you would actually abort a child, right? Is if you're putting yourself first, or you're putting yourself more as something that's more important than the actual reality, or more important than actually like family, right?
That would only be an assumption if the person was acculturated.
Gosh.
If it was be an intentional decision, like, I'm better than this. But if they grow up in a place where it's been industrialized, no problem.
Gosh. So like, let's say you have like, because for a majority of us, we grew up here, right? And like we grew up having, or being desynthesized to the pornographic nature of our society, which means like, you know, sex is not a tool for procreation, or is not the channel for procreation, and it's a channel for the realization of your carnal desires and what you seek out. Then for the person that's like, well, I'm just trying to get my rocks off, what's the problem with me getting my rocks off? And like, what's the problem with me making sure my lady has contraceptive and ensures that, like, so that I can bust in her free whenever I want at my heart's desire, and then like I don't have to worry about the repercussions of a mini me or a mini her coming around.
Right.
Like, what about that person? Because it's like that's really, I would say that's like 95%
Right.
of the mindset of the people out there. And I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah,
At
sure.
some point or another.
Oh,
So
you're asking me?
I'm asking you, like, what do you say to Johnny, or, you know, Stefan, or Susan, or the person that's kind of at that junction in their life? Like, think about the consequences of your actions, or like how do you take because everything we've talked about to us makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But then how do we take it to, you know, the person on TikTok that's watching, you know, Dumbest Ways to Die, the person on TikTok that's watching, you know, the dumbass dance that you can do where you're just moving your hands side to side?
I would say this, you know, we live in modern society where everybody's so pornographically whipped up all the time that they gotta, you know, get it on, you know, to get the heat off. You know, it's just the way it is, right? But in modern society, we also have the invention, the prophylactic. We have like a rubber that people can wear, you know, and then you could put those on and then have the sex. They have a whole bunch of different styles and sizes and stuff like that. You know, but if you're
Those
with,
New York City
but if you're with if you're with somebody and you're together, you know, that's, you know, and you take it off and you're having sex, you know, chances are you're gonna get the person pregnant. But, you know,
if they're not on contraceptive.
but it's different, you know. In the societies back overseas, that's seen as a blessing, like that you could have a family, you could have kids, and then you have many children.
Ancestral
so you
returned.
keep blazing it, you know. You just keep blazing it and
So you
keeping a happy home and
jizzing her again.
It sounds like it's just a change in values that we're really talking about. Because it sounds like coming from like a traditional perspective
or approach, right?
or approach to life versus the modern approach to life. There's just a real change in values and understanding. And my question is, at what point did these values really change? Because we're even talking about Christianity, right?
We're gonna get canceled.
And
like,
even
we're getting canceled.
from what I knew, even with early Christianity, at least there was some sort of family value. I mean, what's this guy, Joseph, David? Didn't they all have like 10 wives or something?
Oh, you mean
that?
like the Jesus' disciples?
Yeah, the some of his disciples, they all had wives, they had families, they had
You mean
children.
multiple wives?
Yeah.
They were practicing polygamy? Is that what you're
There's
saying?
a lot of stuff
You're
in the Bible.
saying that
there's a
the
lot of stuff in the Bible.
Jesus' disciples were practicing polygamy?
There's a lot of stuff in the Bible. Even Solomon, Samson, all these guys, they had multiple wives, right? But I'm not even talking about polygamy really, but what I'm talking about is the idea of procreation and the idea of children and family. Like, that's a value that was there, right? And we live in a Christian society, a society that's really based on Christian culture, so-called culture, values, and all of that. So what is it about today's society? Like, when did these values really, like, you know, just get kicked out of the door? Like, what really happened?
You're asking for a history of, like,
I'm just saying, because
when,
I don't
when things went from Samson having multiple wives and Joseph
or
having
babies, and it's not looked at as it's not looked at as something
like,
negative, or it's not looked at as something, oh, we don't want children.
So like, if I'm Justine, right? I'm Justine in Detroit, and then I'm like, well, I want to have a career and I don't want to have a family. You're asking, like, when did things go from, the desire to have a family or have children to having a career? Is that what you're saying?
You could say that. That's an example we can use.
I wouldn't tie it to religion, though, because in our grandparents' time, you're only going back like 100, 150 years, like our great-grandparents or whatever. It, like, the values were more so like family and stuff like that, you know?
The reason why...
it wasn't like... And religion has been in play for like a couple millennia, you know? And so there's a lot of layers and stages of kind of corruptions that happen over history.
Because the reason why I even brought up the religion is because when you look at a lot of the people who are arguing against this, these kinds of ideas, like abortion is right or pro-choice or what that, it's really what do you call them, evangelical Christians, and they say, and it's going against Christian values, right? So the society is kind of funny because it's supposed to be a Christian society, yet people are going against the so-called Christian values.
Well, let me tell you something. Did you guys see The Pope's Exorcist? Did you see that movie?
I haven't, because I can't stand Russell Crowe.
I rented it. I rented it on Vudu. I paid a lot of money.
Shout out to Vudu. Give us a sponsor.
Yeah, I paid a lot of money because I'm like, it's a Russell Crowe movie, whatever. You know, this looked like some Exorcist type thing, so I watched it, and it was amusing. You know, as far as the movie goes, there was some amusing parts, but there was this theme that they put right at the core of it that made me angry because I know the history.
It was Russell Crowe.
And what they what they put in the plot was that the head Christian authority in Spain, who was responsible for the Spanish Inquisition, which was just murdering thousands and thousands of people and torturing brutally, that head authority in Spain was actually possessed by the devil. And that's why it happened. But it didn't have to do with the whole hierarchy of the Catholic Church or anything like that. That was
BS.
That was the crucial part of the whole theme. Was that, and that's like why the Spanish Inquisition
get
happened.
Out of jail free card.
But if you know history, you have to understand that the Inquisition was signed off on all the way from the top down, as was slavery, chattel slavery, and as was all of the horrors that we know about. It was signed off on.
Meaning, like, there was approval from the structural,
from the top,
structural people.
So it wasn't, it wasn't the whole. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't one person that was possessed by the devil. It was the whole structure that was.
Were they all possessed by the
evil.
devil?
Yeah, well, it's evil shit.
So, the devil was like, "Gotcha, bitch, got them all."
So I mean, it was
the devil is God,
and it happened all over Europe. It happened all over Europe. You know, the Spanish Inquisition is known because it's only the last chapter. It's like because it ended around the 1800s. You know, it was like from the 14 or 1500s on. It was like a period where this kind of went along. It really ended around the end of the 1700s to 1800s. And that was the last chapter of centuries of torture and centuries of murder. If you weren't Christian, or if you had indigenous practices, or if you were another religion or whatever. Right? Or if you were different in any way from the ideology. So what happened is they would use instruments of torture on people. The Spanish Inquisition was famous for this. And these were all designed by the church. Like evil things.
So they were the graphic designers.
They had this thing called the Pear of Anguish. It was a pear-shaped brass device that had a key turn at the end. And they would put the bulbous part of the pear in the person's anus, shove it in their ass, and they would slowly turn the key.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we don't know if we can curse because
I'm sorry.
YouTube might find any way to take us down. But okay.
All right. Well, they would put it in the rectum, and they would turn the key over the course of however long they wanted to, until eventually, over the course of hours or over the course of days, the person hemorrhaged internally and died a terrible death. And they framed it as their spirit being purified so it could go to, heaven.
What a dark, twisted way.
I do not want to go to heaven.
No, they had another thing. This thing called the Judas cradle. Judas cradle was like a pyramid, a wooden pyramid up on 4 stands. And they would put either men or women on their vagina or on their anus, seated on it. And then over the course of days, tie weights to their legs until they slowly died from being pulled apart or hemorrhaging internally. These are real things. You can look them up.
Shout out to
I've seen some of these images, but to hear it described is very.
This is the Catholic Church.
This is the Catholic Church.
The Pope. What you got to say?
So again,
yeah, keep going.
So there's another thing that this is the one that really got me. It's an iron gag. It's basically an iron gag, like an iron device that they put in the mouth and tie around the back of the head that has a breathing hole. Mm-hmm. So when they would burn people alive at the stake, which they would do on Sundays, like almost like Super Bowl Sunday, making a spectacle, they had the air hole. They would be able to breathe and suffer through their death without their screams being louder than the choral music.
So meaning like there was a soundtrack to the torture.
Yeah, there was church music where there was a little crew of people singing church songs while these heathens or these people who practice traditional medicine, who were like non-Christians, like
indigenous people?
Indigenous people who, did other spiritual things that weren't approved.
It's like today.
Anybody like that. They went on campaigns for centuries. Every Sunday they would make the spectacle, and 1 or 2 generations deep into where those people live, they'd be like, we're not doing that. Gosh, I don't want to end up burned at the stake. So that's why Europe ended up, after centuries of it, by the time around the American conquest, 1492 and all of this stuff, by that time, that's why they were so messed up in Europe, is because all of their social integrity, their morals had been stripped away, and they were basically
forced.
Yeah, basically that's when the Black Plague happened. They had like disease, they were dying from disease and stuff like that. And the unfortunate part is when you do something like that to somebody multi-generationally, they end up becoming the perfect messenger for the evil. And that's what happened to them. They were championing going out. Yeah, we're saving the world, but it's the same exact thing that happened to them, originally brought to them by the Romans. That's human history. So people wonder why the church is the most popular world religion. It was because of constant campaigns of terror and murder, exhibits of death and terror, basically, that happened over the course of generations. Keep your head down, believe, do the right thing. You want to go to heaven, don't go to hell. And that's what you get. That's why now you have people, living in the kind of more of a time of peace. So it's very convenient to say, it's just about forgiveness and love. And I'm sure the original guy, Jesus, had a good message, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But now, people, that's all they have. And I've met some very nice Christian people who, have forgiveness and goodness in their heart and make lemonade out of lemons, out of whatever belief system they were subjugated with at one point, or their grandparents were subjugated by.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome, because you're lucky to have Nekhitem Kamenthu on the show tonight, so that you can. I know you're gonna have to rewind that. Because if I didn't have the cultural context as an initiate as to everything he was touching on, I know that I'd be like, wait, what? And I would be rewinding that for my own benefit. So rewind that, take it back, listen to it, digest it, because there's a lot in there. And, it sucks. It sucks to think that, it's kind of like when you look at the friend that you have that is like nice,
right? Or like cool. It's like you come to find out they have like a very troubled backstory, or like they've been through a lot. And that's kind of like where we find ourselves today. Is like we've been through a lot as humans. And then it's kind of like we have to be honest about the things that we've been through, and it's not that pretty to just kind of, make Jesus the thing. And we have to look at, where a lot of the history of the Catholic Church and the history of Christianity comes from. And Russell Crowe, pick better projects, because, like you shouldn't be out here making the Pope's exorcist, because then you're going to have Nekhitem coming for that ass. Excuse me, we can't curse. But, like, you're going to have Nekhitem coming for you. Like,
and the Catholic Church, because you picked a movie that tried to pawn off, colonization on one Spanish Christian clergy member as being possessed.
Well, it's just a rewrite of it. It's a typical thing that they kind of do in Hollywood, which is kind of like altering or rewriting history to kind of reprogram the collective conscious of humanity.
Yeah. And what you said, reprogram the collective consciousness, I think that's huge, because even with talking about Christianity and everything you just went into, I always found it interesting in my own personal journey, because for me, my family claims to be Christian. Claims, I use that word for a reason.
Please don't make like an enemy out of one of your family members right now.
I've had multiple times, but they claim to be Christian, right? And one of the questions I've always had that no one seemed to be able to answer was, if Jesus is the one that Christians follow and the Romans killed him, why is it that the Romans were the ones to spread his religion? And that one always puzzled me, and I don't know if anyone ever really truly answered it for me. But with the Romans and spreading the religion, it seems like the religion itself was like a tool to drive the engine of their expansion of their civilization, because the Romans are known for conquering, right? And they're known for really taking over territory. And it seems like even to continue with that old tradition of conquering territory, they found a new way to do it. Instead of just going out and only fighting anymore, they realized they had to conquer you mentally. They had to conquer you spiritually, emotionally. So it seems like religion was really just a tool or engine to kind of like colonize the world. And during that colonization is where we get the deterioration of like these values that we were talking about, like the realities of the spirit. Because if you can get somebody to get out of the mind frame of reality and get out of the mind frame of spirituality, then you can kind of seem to get people to do and fall for anything, which is why we see all of these injustices of, people murdering babies and things like that and calling it like abortion and whatever we want to call it now, which is really just a continuation of Roman infanticide. That's what it's called, right? It's just, like you said, population control. But it's just so interesting, because we're all really still slaves to Roman Empire and we don't really realize it.
Well, it's important to note that it's the elite. It was the Roman elite who made the changes. Mm-hmm. There were thousands and thousands of people that were the, servants or people who lived under them. Mm-hmm. Because all of Rome was even polytheist, right, before they adopted Christianity. Mm-hmm. So first they had to change all the people under them, enforce that, just like anywhere. And then the elite went on and did war campaigns and propaganda for what they were doing for the world. It's just the same as today. Mm-hmm. It's the elite, the elite who have power, who took power by force, have the violent threat and the manipulation and coercion, and then everybody has to march by it. It's been like that ever since that era, more globally. At least in the Western world, it was like in Europe, and then now globally for the last 400 or 500 years.
So would you also say that there's back and forth between these ideologies nowadays of like pro-choice and not choice, whatever, or anti-abortion and pro-abortion is even like something that the elites themselves are like putting like giving propaganda to, because it seems like these things are so public and they're all in the media. So it seems like they're giving people a reason to bump heads or to fight in order to kind of like distract us from something.
Well, we live in the greatest realization of the original Greco-Roman dream, which
But just wait, right?
that's a big,
because that's
big cup, right?
That's big. That's big. So like, without spending the rest of the night, like, what do you mean by that? Like, because to someone with no context, they're gonna be like, "What's wrong with the Greco-Roman approach?" You know what I mean?
I'll put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Indigenous people who live in harmony with the earth and understand the dynamics of nature,
Like
and
most of the indigenous
dynamic
people
of
today,
the,
right?
of the human condition and everything, we have to follow nature. Nature imposes on us great rules to be able to live symbiotically with the planet. Now, there's a group of rebels who come out and say, we don't want to respect that. We want to do things our own way, follow our own dreams.
What if we do it the opposite?
And that's what the originally happened with the Greeks, and it kind of expanded into this dream of throwing out the authority that everyone was bound to previously and saying we're building a new world of dreams, a new world of possibility, a new world of philosophy, a new world of options. And that's over the course of time, as it kind of fluctuated, ended up being the world we live in today, you know, where it's based on a fantasy of how we want life to be rather than how it
actually is.
And that's why we live on Earth. Like, you know, we can see that nature and everything is suffering terribly right now. It's because this whole idea, this whole template for civilization goes against all of the basic needs living symbiotically with the planet imposes, or the needs the planet has, and needs we need to have in order to live symbiotically. Is that a word? Symbiotically.
Yeah, that's a word. Yeah. Because the only reason why I stopped you is because, you know, we just want people to be able to follow along with us and to be able to access what we're talking about. Because we're gonna take a real short break, real quick, right? Before we resume in terms of our conversation surrounding the Catholic Church and abortion and colonization. Just to cleanse our palate, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I dropped a bomb on my own statement. Because we are about to... I've been looking at these chips the whole time, and I've been trying to stop myself from eating these chips the whole time. Because we're going to do a on-air live tasting session of hot sauce. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, before we get back into the conversation, gentlemen, grab your chip, grab your sauce of choice. Looks like you're stuck with Circuit's Fire.
That's fine. I haven't tried this one yet, actually.
And here we go.
Gotta sauce it up.
Man, I put so much Island Fire on this. Island Crown. Island Crown. For the weirdos out there that like ASMR.
So good. This is how much I love my sauce. Like, even when I eat it, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Man. Island Crown has saved me from so many terrible meals where the person doesn't know how to cook. And then I just add Island Crown to the food. And then the flavorless meal then becomes flavorful.
What are you talking about? Name them. Name them.
Let me get that one.
I didn't.
These are labor.
You, bro. I'm talking about your meals.
We both know that's a lie.
This sauce is a labor of love. I put a lot of hours into sculpting these flavors.
You could taste it. Let me get the
Pause. We had to bring back Pause. Pause has been on the shelf for a very long time. Island Crown is phenomenal, and it has a kick. I'm realizing how much of a kick right now when I'm eating it in excess just on a chip.
This one's actually hotter.
Ooh. I don't know if I can do Circuit's Fire if I'm tapping out on an Island Crown. Goodness gracious. And I'm somebody that likes spice.
I like this one. It's nice and sweet, tangy, refreshing.
I feel like we need that like newscaster music that they use on TikTok, like. But
Are you all right?
I'm not all right. You're trying to get me to send. You're trying to get me to send diss tracks to people in their cooking.
I'm not trying to get you to do anything. You brought it up.
Yeah, you are.
Same.
And I'm choking on the chip because of the fact that I'm not trying to. This guy is trouble, man. Everybody thinks I'm trouble. This guy is trouble. All right,
I'm just chilling.
Take one more chip. Goodness gracious, that Island Crown is a lot harder than.
Did you try
It's
to
a
serve?
creeper.
That's a new
It's a
batch. Yeah,
creeper.
that's man. Woo.
It's that Scotch bonnet.
Yeah, when you eat on a chip, though, it's more. When you mix it with food, it cuts it a little bit. Drink some water.
Yeah, I need more than. I feel like I need milk. Like this is hot ones. I need to blow my nose. But yeah, you're eating salsa verde. That's not as spicy.
Nah, I know. I already had those two. But
What
this-
kind of
I just
Jamaican
like
doesn't like
I
spice?
just like the flavor of this one.
Name
just
them.
watch. Just watch. You see
Yeah.
what I'm about to do.
Whatever.
You see what I'm about to do.
Oh, you're gonna do salsa verde and something else?
I'm doing all three.
Oh, okay.
He's mixing the caps up.
Yeah, exactly. That's Island Crown's cap.
Sorry.
Yeah. You're fired. Get off the show. You can't fire me. I own this company. Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
I actually didn't need milk. A shout out to milk. Oh my gosh.
The three of them together has the most interesting flavor.
Yeah, I've done like an all sorts batch.
Yeah, let
like
me
when
do
I'm
that.
done bottling it and I have some left in the pots, I'll mix them together and make like a mystery sauce. It's good.
It's amazing.
Because it's all good peppers and stuff, you know.
I'm joining the fray.
Yeah. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Making it weird.
Gotta shake it.
Pause.
Pause has been dead for a very long time, but while I'm chewing, can you please tell us where they can get? You're sweating. Can you please tell it? Because that's how hot it is. Can you please? So for those that are like, oh God, I can't believe he's drinking milk. Where can we get sauce?
www.sauce hot sauce. So the brand is SAAS. Sauce hot sauce. Spelled hot and then sauce.com. That's the website. It's under construction, but it's there, but it's under construction. It'll be ready at the beginning of next month. What is next month? June? Yeah.
Whoever had the idea for us to eat the hot sauce live on air totally threw me off. So to the producer, that's your fault.
You're also red, by the way.
I'm turning red.
Yeah, your nose
I'm
is
telling
sweating.
you, man, Island Crown crept up on me. It got me, bro. It's like I got jumped by Island Crown. Okay, so let's pivot real fast, right? And they can hear you regardless, okay? And before we jump back into things, right? When
we were trying to decide on this topic, you know, Hollywood has a way of rewriting history or trying to get you to rewrite history and do like kind of like a reset button. Like, you know, like in the Marvel movies when they reset everything that Thanos did with the snap. Mm-hmm. Like Hollywood tries to do that on a daily basis with like everything, like history, you know, you name it, like colonialism, everything. Like they're always trying to rewrite history and trying to make things different than what they were. And for those that don't really understand the way that Hollywood can be in cahoots with religious powers, what would we say to those people? Like people that consider themselves, you know, not aligning with a religion. And then the thing is, people will say like, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I'm more spiritual, but I go to church every Sunday. I go to the mosque every Friday. But my relationship with Jesus, my relationship with Allah, my relationship with Jehovah is more personal and more, you know, spiritual, and not defined by, you know, the masses. What would we say to those people?
Well, I would call BS. And I would call BS because...
Why is your nose running?
No, it's my eyes.
It's your eyes?
It's my
Okay,
eyes.
yeah. So you're trying to say my nose is red, but your eyes are running.
I said your nose was sweating.
Okay, keep going.
But I would call BS, and I would call it BS because I don't know if there's so many people on the planet, right? So many people. What would make me so specifically special that I would think like the God will acknowledge me above anyone else? Like, you know, when people be like, "Oh, I'm highly blessed and highly favored." What do you mean by that? What makes you highly blessed and highly favored?
It means I'm stunting on you.
It does that. I don't.
It means
I don't,
I'm rich, you're broke. I got it, you don't.
But anyway, practically, does that really make sense? Like,
To them, it makes sense.
I mean, if I was in charge of a company, right? I'm the CEO. I have to manage all of these people. Do you really think that I'm going to have time to come out? Not just the people. I have to manage everything going on with the company. You think I have time to look at the one person at their desk and say, "Joseph, you sit down and you leave apples every day, and I eat those apples. I like you more than the rest."
So this is who's talking to Joseph? Jesus?
Right.
Like who's his
let's
voice?
let's say God is like the CEO of the entire company that we call the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the different departments, all the different people in each department. You really think he's gonna have time to sit down and have personal conversations?
Why not? It's God. He's omnipotent. He can be everywhere and in everything and everywhere at any given moment. Why not?
Really?
Yeah, but you also got to consider the fact that, you know, some people just have basic human qualities. You know, there's people from all walks of life, all kind of ideologies, all religions that have basic human qualities. That maybe they're intelligent, they're compassionate, maybe they have a connection with nature. You know what I'm saying? So a person could feel as though they're in tune with the universe or something like that and be like, I have a special relationship with God. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? People are like that, especially people who aren't about like the by the numbers ideology. They'll be like, I have a special relationship with God. I've met a lot of people like that. But it's not to say it's like a cartoon where it's like the guy in the white beard is coming down and saying, I love you, bro. You know,
Family
like
Guy.
that kind of special relationship, you know what I mean?
But there's people like that though that
Yeah,
will
there
tell
are-
you
there
that
are
it's
people
like,
like
yeah,
that.
the God specifically chose me. Like he
Yeah.
likes me more than you, and that's what I'm calling BS on.
Right.
You know,
So-
it's like
So you're saying that those people that say that are saying that God likes them more than you?
yes, people literally believe that. Listen, I've met a guy.
God doesn't like you, and He likes me more, so that's why your life sucks.
It's like that thing where you at church, and you talk to the pastor, and the pastor is like giving you advice or praying for you, and then he's telling you that you're gonna get everything that you want, and you go back to the pastor, and you're like, "Oh, why didn't I get everything I want?" And the pastor tells you, "Well, you just don't believe hard enough." It's kind of like that. It's like that. Oh, I just believe hard enough, and then God will just like me.
But doesn't it matter what you ask for? Because what if you ask for God to rip open the heavens and to spread his butt cheeks and then rain upon you
abundance?
I don't know how to answer that question. I'm going to pass.
I think that, being rained down upon with blessings, But no, what I think is that...
Isn't that what abundance is, guys?
What it seems like to me, though, like to go back to what you were saying before, is like science and religion are just two sides of the same coin. You got one that's obsessed with believing and having faith, and the other one who's obsessed with materialism. And it keeps going like that, and then you get Hollywood and this kind of thing that's like a propaganda machine for either side. And you will think that the two are fighting against each other, but it's really one continual kind of obsessive imbalance. It just keeps fluctuating on. And then things like the music business and Hollywood become the propaganda arm of it,
Oh, that's interesting.
And they have to keep upgrading. What used to be Religion 2.0 last year is Religion 3.0 this year. There's upgrades to science. There's upgrades to the belief in materialism, and there's upgrades to the belief in the unseen. Every year.
That's so interesting you say that, because it goes right along with even the topic that we really, really, really started with, which is the whole aspect of abortion and the principles of religion. And you said something interesting, that it upgrades every single year. And that's kind of like the same situation we're dealing with, because the idea that the human life does not start until birth, that's like a new upgrade, right? That's like a new thought. And they're trying to find all kind of scientific reasons as to why that is possibly true. And now when you look at religion, it's kind of like the same thing, because now in churches, they're incorporating those same beliefs. In churches, they're even, there's even gay pastors now, which, I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't openly a thing, right? So it kind of seems like the more and more the society progresses into the future, because that's what we're living in this modern age, like a futuristic kind of mentality.
Is that who you lost your virginity to, was a pastor?
Absolutely not.
But, that's the need. Like, you'll see the Pope right now. He's doing a lot of upgrades because Catholicism is losing a lot of its sheep. You know that, right? Catholicism is losing a lot of steam. So the new Pope has been doing a lot of upgrades and concessions to kind of like broaden the spectrum. And that's what most of them, not any, but most of them end up doing to kind of keep their sway,
So it's kind of like religion has, if it's going through an upgrade, then that makes me think it's always going through an upgrade in the past. So it's almost like it's just something that's coming to suit what the society is at that time, right? So really, we can't really trust any of it then. Like, we can't really go by any of these things, because like the values and the principles, they're not really rooting anything if they're always going to be changing.
No, I mean, the church was killing gay people at one point, and now it's okay to have gay pastor. It seems contradictory, but it's more so about, broadening the following,
Yeah, I mean, they got to keep up with the times to make it relevant for people to feel like, things are moving forward. Because it's like, even with this advent of like AI and chat GBT and all these, technological advancements, like when you see that and you feel like it blows your mind to some extent, then you feel like, oh, wow, like the society is really moving forward. So then when the Pope is like, burn all gay people at the stake, but then they come out and then they're like, okay, it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be this. It's okay to be that. You get that feeling of like advancement, but then you really have to sit and think and be like, are we really like evolving? And what's that feeling of like advancement? Like,
I can't say we're evolving, because even sitting here thinking about it, like with all of this so-called achievement and advancement and like change and everything, like what if we walked into a zoo and we saw the chimpanzees and the monkeys like just going into the female chimpanzees and monkeys womb and just like taking out like the fetuses and babies and stuff. Like we would think something is wrong, right? But that's literally what.
So you're saying
what we're
like,
doing.
okay, that's a really interesting argument, right? Because like a lot of gay people and a lot of transgender people try and use the animal kingdom, particularly like seahorses and certain animals, as an argument to justify homosexuality and transgenderism, right? But I've never heard anybody use animal kingdom to justify abortion.
It's unnatural. Even that aspect, to me, like trying to use the animal kingdom to justify homosexuality, I think that's very dishonest, because we're human beings. If we're going to categorize them in like a scientific sense, right, we're quote unquote mammals. There's no history of a homosexual mammal anywhere you find in the animal kingdom.
But then what about the people that say like and then they come with some like obscure animal, and then they start talking about like, oh well, there's this animal and this animal has sex with another male animal. Like there's that person, because there's that person there. They're out there.
Well, I would ask Nekhitem, like, what do you really think about that? Because to me, that doesn't really make sense. Because if we're talking about like reality again, like as we've been saying, there's a reality, and then there's like what people are trying to make something to be, right?
Well, I think this. I'll just say it like that, because from my observations, what I've seen is that we live in our Western society, in the culture that we call it society that we live in here. I'm not going to call it culture. In the society that we live in here, the ideology is follow your dreams. Be what you want to be.
But what's wrong with that?
Yeah, well, that's you can't blame anybody or get down on people for that. That's the ultimate realization of the society that we live in, is to be what you want to be, even if it means being born a man and turning yourself into a woman, fashioning yourself new genitalia and taking hormones and all this, or if being born a woman and then fashioning yourself new genitalia and taking hormones and like that. Right? That's like options that we have. They're, surgically facilitated, even though the man will never really be a woman and the woman will never really be a man. At least they can live out their dream of having a vagina or a penis and experiencing life like that, So, that's the world we live in.
Shout out to Elliot Page.
It's perfectly natural for that to happen here. That's a normal thing. In a lot of indigenous societies around the world, there's this notion of the ancestral spirit, which is the idea that all of our people before us is like a river of blood. And then in this time and place, this time and space now, it's like we're the manifestation of that whole river. All of that suffering that came before us, that came to us being born. And so there's this responsibility, an existential responsibility for indigenous people to pass that on, and to have as a focus, as part of our existential reality, to have children and then pass that on. So it's not like there aren't effeminate men in traditional societies in Africa, and it's not like there aren't masculine women and all of that. But based on your ability to kind of procreate, you're initiated from young, so that when you grow up, the model is that you come together and then you have kids. So that kind of notion of it being linked to, your ability to be able to pass on the blood that you carry to future generations, being linked to part of your whole upbringing, it's linked to survival, and it's linked to those things as well. Now I'll say this. people end up getting pigeonholed in modern culture. So let's say if you're a man who has effeminate characteristics, either physically or behaviorally,
Why does it have to be me?
you're automatically pigeonholed from early.
Yeah.
You know that you're gay, and then you have preferences, but there's no preferences in a child. The little baby doesn't have preferences. It makes me, and it's the same with women. You know, a woman that has masculine characteristics and all of that, either physically or behaviorally, they're pigeonholed into being a lesbian. And there's all kind of cross dimensions with that end up occurring. But in traditional society, it's not like that. It's like I've been there and seen guys, I swore they might have been gay. They were effeminate and all that, but then they have
feminine qualities.
Yeah, but then they have a whole bunch of kids in the family, and they got into healing. They work with plants or something like this. You know what I'm saying? There's all kind of
they're
elements.
very nurturing because they work
Yeah,
with plants.
it's nurturing, you know. But there's a way where we kind of fold everybody into society without being rejected. Like, you're this, you're gonna go over to this batch, or you're that, you go over to this batch. You're just brought up to be a survivor. You're brought up to meet whatever destiny you came with in this life, and to live harmoniously with it, and not be an exile or a reject based on it. You know, that's one of the geniuses of you know, indigenous society, is able to do that, to meet what nature brings and work with it.
So it sounds like because of that aspect of Christianity coming in with like that whole Roman mentality of like just conquering is really the root cause of the change and values and concepts that we see in this society.
Well, it started with the late Greek period, really, and then bled over into the Roman period.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not really much else to say to it than that. It's like, you know, that whole change in values, that whole concept of like colonialism, that whole concept of religion being the engine that's really pushing that colonialism forward, is really just seems to be the downfall of humanity, because now we're going so far as to really even destroy, even like you said, our bloodlines.
And let me say this. I'm going to drop a bomb here. People who put quote unquote indigenous people in this kind of unified bubble, like everybody who started this stuff, and you know, there's tribes that live out in the forest who are cannibals today. They will eat you.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. You know, they're all of this stuff started out with small groups of people. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like there's some pristine reality, you know. But when we're saying indigenous, we're really speaking to the people who are living with the qualities, the human qualities, and living symbiotically with nature, you know. And we've traveled around and met with a lot of different people. And at the root, there's a connection between a lot of those civilized people all over the planet who are indigenous people. There's many, many more similarities than there are regional differences. You know, so I just want to kind of disengage that there's some kind of pristine, you know, illusion of what was
we are the world
tribal culture before, you know. It's very important to think about. You know, people often, when they think about history, they exclude the human element, like human behavior and human psyche and all of these problems, you know.
You know, we can keep going. We could do this all night. But man, I'm getting like that hot sauce is like you thought you were hot, right? I'm hot. We could do this all night, and you know, we're gonna come to a stopping point at this point, and I know that my producer has a few things to say before we hit it. We really want to just reinforce, you know, the aspects of some of the things we were talking about, like, you know, without further ado, there's a question.
There's
Okay.
a question from one of the viewers.
Uh-huh.
What about people who say the gods and ancestors don't care about transgenderism and homosexuality? Don't care.
Can you read it one more time?
What about people who say the gods and the ancestors don't care about transgenderism and homosexuality?
They don't.
Well, no, I mean, no problem. If you feel at peace with the world and you're philosophically at ease with yourself and living life, there's no problem with that, you know. And then even if the dilemma would be, if we're talking about technical spirituality, would be if you were capable of passing life on, and then you didn't do it. If you're a family father and you dress up as a woman, hey, and you had a bunch of kids, your ancestors might be very happy with you.
Which means, for all the drag queens out there, your ancestors might be like, "Hey, you're hitting it. You're doing it."
If they have kids, that was the big thing. Because
so what about the winner for season 9 of
now if you
RuPaul's
can't
Drag
sometimes
Race?
you get a situations where a person can't reproduce and something like this. There's situations like that. You find a useful and a good place in society for the person so they can be, you know, there's many different kinds of people that even when we have people that they consider like autistic or have different capacities or a little bit different, like we find a place for all of that. All of those people are members of the community, you know. So, you know, but the problem is if you are capable of passing on the life and you end up pulling your ovaries out and cutting off your genitals, and then you actually make the choice to like stop that river, you know, moving forward, then that causes kind of an existential problem for the individual, and they become miserable because then the individual can never truly be what they dream they would be. Like, no matter how hard you dream as a man that you want to be a woman and all of that, it's like you can never truly be a woman, you know, and it's the same for women. You can never truly be a man, you know, and there's kind of an existential issue in that. But it ceases to become an issue if you surround yourself by people who are supporting all of that. You can live a very happy life and go ahead, you know.
So if you take your penis and you let the doctors lotus flower your penis, you're not going to be happy. Or if you have a vagina and then they totally banana peel your vagina and reverse engineer it to become a banana, you're not going to be happy.
It's also, you know, there's a component of it too. There's people who legit have like that kind of spirit and want to kind of be closer to that or find a way in Western culture to connect to it. If you're a guy and you have that kind of feminine qualities, like that's legit. But what this kind of movement is also becoming, it's almost becoming another version of like the born again movement. You know, when you like become in religion.
It's been religious.
It's been religious.
Yeah,
for
you
a
can.
long time.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily in that situation where it's like a born again moment. You know, it's like I'm going to reinvent myself as you know this or as that, whatever kind of permutation of yourself is non-religious kind of sexual, you know.
Well,
aspects,
they've
you know?
made the transgender movements and the homosexuality movements, they've made it religious. Because I saw the other day there's like a senator or something like that, and they were championing the senator because they were proposing. They were proposing to their girlfriend or boyfriend, and it was a transgender woman, which means it was originally a man. Why are you looking at me like that? Which means it was originally a man that then became that transitioned to becoming a woman, and the same thing for their partner. And they were proposing to their partner, and like the things that they were talking about was just like how brave they are and how, like, you know, powerful they are. And then it becomes like that's the thing that Christianity uses in like the born again movements is like, like, yes, this person has like chosen Christ or has chosen Christianity and is now like, you know, born again, and they have like the powers of the powers behind them and all this kind of stuff. And that's what they're doing nowadays with, you know, the transgender movement and, you know, the not the Christianity, the homosexuality movement and all those kind of things.
So there's another question in the chat from DeMarcus. The question is mental illness caused by doing something evil spiritually?
Not all the time. You can have a condition where if somebody kind of violates something in nature or gets involved with the negative entities, that they can have what looks like mental illness, but it's not necessarily completely linked to that. You know, it can just be an imbalance that needs to be fixed for the person, like spiritually, or something in them that needs to be fortified.
Also, just to go back to the last question about transgenderism, the gentleman said that I've heard Ifa priests defend that particular position.
What particular position?
The position about people who say the gods and ancestors don't care about transgenderism and homosexuality.
Well, which Ifa priests?
Yeah. I'd say check your resources because, I mean, you know, there's a commodification of things that are happening nowadays. And, if my sole purpose is to gain financial stability or financial status, like, I'll tell you whatever you want to hear in order to get that. And there's a lot of people, you know, from various different African indigenous practices that will just tell you whatever you want to hear so that they can pay their rent and make $1. So,
because you have to really look at how it functions traditionally in where the places that these cultures are from. And I can tell you that if you were to go to Nigeria for real, like really, and like really be involved in the culture there, that's not something that's really practiced. That's not something that's like natural or normal, because in indigenous African spirituality, it's just not natural. Because again, what Nekhitem explained, it's really cutting off the cycle of how human beings even come to be. So it's just not something that's really like culturally appropriate. And so if somebody tells you that, then you have to really question that person.
And then I would ask you, for the people from Ifa that are telling you that, are they gay?
That's another thing too.
Like, are they the ones, you know, like, are they the ones that are practicing that lifestyle? Because if they're not practicing that lifestyle, they could be telling you, yeah, it's fine. And then they're like, yeah, but just make sure you pay me for this and make sure you pay me for that and all this kind of stuff.
The gentleman said that it was a Cuban Ifa priest.
Yeah, so go back to him and ask him.
Tell the Cuban guy to go back to Nigeria.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of, there are some basic spiritual principles that I've seen people kind of use as convenience to address totally separate issues, you know? Because in some of the temples, even like in some of the water temples near the coast, like in Merita, there will be like, guys who have like kind of makeup and almost have like a very feminine thing, which is part of the
in honor of the...
Yeah, and I thought originally
the genies and the deities.
Originally,
and the
I
things that
thought,
worshiping.
Yeah, when I first met him, I thought that that he was gay. One of the guys that I met.
So,
and then I heard him correct somebody else, like, "Nah, you have a total misunderstanding of what we're about." But if you looked at him, he's wearing makeup and very feminine and things like this. So there's aspects to the human spirit and aspects to like certain essences and things like that that then get used by convenience to justify other social realities,
social, political. And that's what it is with the whole two-spirit thing too, coming from like the Native Americans. It's like people who came in, people outside of the culture coming in and trying to dictate like the natural realities of like Native American spirituality, and then twisting it to kind of like suit their like political needs of like what it means to be like two-spirited.
So just to confirm, the Cuban Ifa priest was or is in fact gay.
Yeah, well,
there we go.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
why you always lying?
Do we have any other questions? No.
I wanted to tell this small story.
Yeah, go for it.
And this was something that was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Because when I first went on to travel with Neb Nabala Musamora Denny Big, and we went to Togo, we were sitting around. And he was telling a story. This was about 2006. He was telling a story that from about 20 years ago, where him and the priests were kind of laughing about it. And the story was there was a young couple getting married. You know, they were about 18, 19 years old, and they were getting married in the village there. And after they get married, the families will bring them in a hut, right, into like a small house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they consummate the act. But there'll actually be representatives going in there, like showing them how to do it. Yeah, that's what I thought, like showing them how to do it because they've never done it before.
So like
that's like their first time.
some like virgins getting married in from an indigenous society.
Exactly.
And
There's a
then
boy virgin and a girl virgin having their first sexual experience, and they need to be like shown how, right?
So like they don't have exposure to MTV. They don't have exposure
They don't
to
know.
BET.
I mean, and they're
no
around
TV,
18,
nothing.
19 years old, right?
Wow.
So they bring them in, and the funny part of the joke while they're telling the story is that they show them what to do, and then the guy's pushing, and then he's like, I feel like I have to pee, and then all the priests are like, no, keep going. And that was
R. Kelly.
that was the part that they were all amused by in the story, but it speaks to something because you actually have an instance. There was a certain kind of purity in the culture where these young people came up their whole life, and apparently the guy never ejaculated before.
Oh wow.
Right? Because it was a foreign sensation to him in doing all of that, you know, and to even think that there's a context where a human being can go through life up to that point and not experience those things is unfathomable for us on this side of the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He probably slept so good that night.
But it's just to give a context, you know, a lot of what we experience is environmental, and it is kind of learned and has to do with the training, you know, as opposed to popular opinion. It really is like that, you know.
You know, it's been another episode of the Gator Gates podcast. Like I said, we have a lot of events coming up. Please check them out. DogonWisdom.com. Please check it out. For those of you on the West Coast and in Colorado, the people in California, the people in Austin, the people in Texas, the people in Colorado, the people in California, please check it out. There's going to be a whole lot of people, you know, coming to those events. So make sure, you know, you get in and get your tickets early so that, you know, you don't miss it. And, man, we're really grateful, and we're grateful for you for tuning in, but we're also grateful for the guest that we have today, and, you know, everything he bestowed upon, all the wisdom he bestowed upon, you, because, you know, please take the time to listen to it. Please take the time to rewind and take the time to really, you know, listen slowly to the best of your ability and really, you know, like catch it if you can. And, you know, Get a Gates podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. This is Tutipsa Mahekwa Namir. This is Kajazarim and Kebtah. This is Nekhitem Kamenthu. And shout out to you for listening. And please, you know, scan the QR code. Check us out. I know we have a lot of different things on the camera, on the screen for you right now. You know, check out the merch that we have for you. Kebtah-nj.org. I got one on. Check it out. And, you know, get your merch because we're throwing in a special gift for anybody that orders it right now before the 3-week period ends. And, you know, it's Gator Gates podcast. We're politically incorrect. And back to your regularly scheduled decolonization. Idiotu.